The Jewish people have been around a long time, a long time. So just for argument's sake, let's start with the patriarch Abraham, who was the source of the Jewish people around 1900 BC. In Genesis 22:17, God made this promise to Abram: I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Now clearly, God promised Abraham a lot of descendants. But who would those descendants be? Well, basically, some, but by no means all of the people that we would today classify as Arabs. And of course, the Jews. So then if we begin with Abraham, the Jewish bloodline has been around for something like 4,000 years. But first, let's be precise. Abraham had a son named Isaac. Isaac had a son named Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons, the founders of the 12 tribes of Israel. Technically, not all Israelites are Jews. Jews are descended mainly from just a couple of these 12 tribes, the tribes of Levi and Judah. The term Jew derives from the name of the tribe of Judah, or in Hebrew, Yehudah. The tribe of Levi were given responsibility for Israel's worship and for teaching the law of Moses to the others. They became incorporated with the tribe of Judah into that people that today we call the Jews. The other 10 tribes lost their identity some 700 years before the time of Jesus and either blended in with other peoples or took on new national identities. But a few of those refugees from the 10 tribes simply came back to the area of Judea and merged with the tribes of Judah and Levi. So that entire body of people we just talked about, Judahites, Levites, refugees from other Israelite tribes, and converts, that's what we mean when we speak of modern Jews. As I said, Jews have been around a long time. And with that kind of history, you might expect there to be a lot of Jewish people today. But what are the actual numbers? In the early 21st century, world Jewish population is right around 16 million, just under 7 million of which live in the land of Israel. If you factor in people who have Jewish ancestry from only one parent, that adds something like another 2 million people of the population. So right now there are roughly 18 million people worldwide who would identify as Jewish from at least one parent. Now that may seem like a lot, but given the amount of time that the Jews have been around, you might expect more. I mean, with just an average population increase, there should be a lot more Jews. So where are all of the Jews? Well, to answer that question, let's do a little math. The best estimates of world Jewish population at the beginning of the first century, 2,000 years ago, that's the time of Jesus, is maybe around 4 million or possibly a bit more. Now compare the Jewish population of 4 million in the first century with the best scholarly estimates of the population of the world in the first century, around 200 million. Now let's jump to today. The number of Jews grew from 4 million in the first century to 18 million today. That makes Jewish population in the 21st century only 4.5 times the size of what it was 2,000 years ago. Only 4.5 times larger than in the first century. That just doesn't seem right. The average world population growth rate during that same time is something like 1.45%. World population overall grew during that time from an estimated 200 million in the first century to between 7 and 8 billion today. Using the world population growth rate, it would have taken just 4 centuries to bring the Jewish population in the first century of 4 million to today's level of 18 million. In other words, the number of Jews now living should have been reached by around the year 500 AD. Or think of it another way around. If world population increases had mirrored Jewish population growth over the past couple thousand years, the overall world population today would only be around 900 million, far below the actual 7 to 8 billion on the planet currently. So what gives? Well, the quick and easy answer is that Jews have been persecuted and killed for centuries, which is clearly true. By the 1200s, world Jewish population had been reduced from 4 million in the first century to about 2 million due to huge devastations dating from the Jewish revolt against Rome in the late 1st and early 2nd centuries, as well as various times of persecution and dispersals in the Middle Ages. For instance, perhaps 15 to 20,000 Jews were expelled from England in 1290. Doesn't mean they were killed, they just displaced. Around 100 were dispersed out of France in 1306. As many as 200,000 Jews were expelled from Spain and Portugal in 1492, when Ferdinand and Isabella completed the Reconquista in February of that year. Jews were also killed and dispersed in Russia and other parts of Eastern Europe in the years preceding the 20th century. Of course, the most recent instance of drastic Jewish population reduction was during the Holocaust of the 1940s, when approximately 6 million Jews were exterminated in Europe. But with all that, it still doesn't account for the far smaller number of Jews in the world than would be expected with even a very modest growth rate. Also, keep in mind that Jews actually had some population advantages that other groups of people did not have. For one thing, Jewish culture has always placed a huge expectation that their young people should get married and raise families. Until recent times, singleness among Jews was far rarer than among non-Jews. Among Europeans in general during the past 20 centuries, some forms of singleness were actually celebrated. For example, many families sent some of their children into monasteries and convents, which certainly had a slowing effect on the population growth of Europe during the past couple of thousand years. And then again, in some cases at least, when nations went to war, Jews were not expected to serve militarily. So they often escaped the reduction in the numbers of their young men that other groups suffered. With all that in mind, what happened to all the Jews? Well, the answer may surprise you. A careful study of history shows that over the centuries there has been a steady trickle of Jewish conversion and assimilation into the cultures around them. In Islamic regions, that meant conversion to Islam. In Christian regions, that has meant conversion into some form of Christianity. And even today, a sizable portion of the U.S. population who claim Jewish background, maybe up to a third, are scattered throughout Christian churches. Others are just blended in with secular, non-religious society. The other two-thirds either identify with Orthodox, Conservative, or Reform Judaism. Okay, are there examples of Jews who have converted to Christianity over the centuries? Yes, there are. Here are a few. Let's start from the beginning of the Christian faith. All of the earliest Christians were of Jewish background. Peter, James, John, Matthew, Paul, even Mary, Jesus' mother, and naturally Jesus himself. All were Jews. And Jews have continued to follow Jesus as their Messiah down through the centuries. For example, in the 1300s, Sarah Theodora, Empress of Bulgaria, was a Jewish convert to Eastern Orthodox Christianity. Also in the 1300s, the Castilian poet Pedro Ferrus made a conversion from Jewish background to Catholicism. In the 1500s, Spanish chess master Luis Ramirez de Lusignan was a Jewish convert to Catholicism. Polish reformer Jacob Frank made his conversion in the 1700s from Judaism, as well as German social reformer Henriette de Lemos Hirsch. In the 1800s, politician Benjamin Disraeli, German author Heinrich Heine, and German novelist Dorothea Mendelssohn von Schlegel all left Judaism and became Christians. Heinrich Marx, father of Karl Marx of Communist Manifesto fame, converted to Lutheranism in the 1800s, although no one, I guess, would ever claim that his son Karl was a Christian. Here are a few more. German composer Felix Mendelssohn, French Catholic priest Francois Lieberman, American theologian and Bible scholar Alfred Edersheim, German authoress Rahel Levine Varnhagen, and English businessman Morris Jimenez, all converted to some form of Christianity. In the 20th and 21st centuries, South African businessman Harry Oppenheimer, World War I German fighter ace Wilhelm Frankl, Russian poet Boris Pasternak, Mortimer Adler, American actor Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., American songwriter Bob Dylan, Christian educator Charles Feinberg, Anglican Archbishop Hugh Montefiore, and American actor Shia LaBeouf are all of Jewish background. And keep in mind that these people were either famous or accomplished. There must have been many more that we never heard about in the history books because they were not people who achieved that level of notoriety. In Spain and Portugal alone, after the Reconquista of 1492, Jews were forced to leave the realm. However, many chose to convert to Roman Catholicism rather than be expelled from their homeland. Even today, there are certain Spanish and Portuguese surnames that tend to be of Jewish origin, such as Acosta, Castro, Duran, Espinosa, Flores, León, Medina, Ferreira, Rojas, and Torres. I've personally known a number of people of Jewish background who were vibrant followers of Jesus. Years ago, I had the privilege of meeting the founder of Jews for Jesus, Moishe Rosen. Before that, in my seminary days in Denver, Colorado, I met Eliezer Urbach, a representative of what was then called the Chosen People Ministry. And there are several others in my circle of acquaintance who have become committed followers of Jesus Christ. I got the idea for this 5-minute Bible guide episode from an article I read years ago, maybe in the early 1990s, written by Marvin Olasky, editor of World Magazine, himself a Christian believer of Jewish background. The article was entitled, "Where Are All the Jews?" I tried to find it on the internet, but somehow it isn't available. I'm sure somewhere there's an old copy of World Magazine that still has it, but I did want to make at least an attempt to give credit for the idea. So thank you, Marvin Olasky. So what's my point? Well, a couple of years ago, I did what many other people are doing these days. I got a DNA affinity test. You order a kit, you take a couple swabs from the inside of your cheek, put the swab in a sealed tube, and mail it off to the company. I have no idea how accurate these analyses are, but what I received back was not totally surprising. I am apparently what I've always been told I was. 99% Western European in background, mostly British Isles, Germany, the Netherlands, etc. But aside from 1% from Spain, and I have no idea where that came from, maybe some sailor from the Spanish Armada wrecked somewhere off the coast of Britain, the other 1% was an affinity with European Jews. Now my guess is that somewhere back in one of my family lines, there were Jewish people who converted to Christianity for one reason or another. But I am most definitely not alone in this. Almost certainly millions of folks today with European backgrounds and even African American backgrounds, Native American backgrounds, probably have some Jewish DNA as well, due to the mixing over the years. When God told Abraham that he would become the father of many nations, he wasn't kidding. So when we read the Bible, many of us are reading a part, maybe a small part, of our own family history. And that answers the question, at least in part, what happened to all the Jews? This is Dr. Michael Bogart with Aspect Ministries 5-Minute Bible Guides. I did want to let you know I've got a book called The 45-Minute Bible. You can order it off our website, aspectministries.com. And I've made a DVD called The 45-Minute Bible. The book takes you longer than 45 minutes to read it, but the DVD really is 45 minutes. I know DVDs are going out, but for those of you who'd like to order it, you can do so on our website, and I also have a streaming version. So until next time, this is Dr. Michael Bogart of Aspect Ministries. May God bless you.